Well, hello and welcome to the Qualoupe class. This week we're going to be looking at how to set up your crystal reports to run within Qualoupe, and then once they're set up, how to go on to run the reports. I've put two applications on my favourites tab just for convenience. So the first one we're going to look at is the Reports Manager, where the reports are actually set up. So I'll just click on that to go to it. Okay, we're in the Reports Manager, so if I load records, we can see the reports that have previously been set up. There's two in here. With the default Qualoupe installation, you should have a full set of standard reports, which should have been supplied at the time of installation. On this demo system, they weren't actually installed, so I've just put a couple on here just to show you. So if I load those, I've got two reports on here. Sample information report and a dashboard report. So let's add another one. So click on the new record and we get this dialog, upload a file. So I'm going to browse and find a file to upload. Here's a list of reports which we prepared earlier. So I'm going to select COA reports and we'll give it a title, COA report. I'm going to put a description in. Here's one I copied earlier, so I've just pasted that in. Just to make life easy for myself, upload. Okay, and then we've got the file name. We haven't actually got a report title yet, so I shall call this Certificate of Analysis and save the changes. Okay, so the significance of these fields will be a little bit clearer later. I'll point them out to you, but they're displayed when you're selecting the report that you wish to use later on. At the bottom here there's a list of applications, and because we've just added this record, as yet it's not actually assigned to any applications. So if I said I wanted to launch this report from the sample manager, I can scroll down this list, find sample manager and add it. And in common with other parts of Qualoupe, you can filter this list just to show you a subset of the data. So to save that long scroll, if you're new to Sample Manager, you can type in SA and it shows you anywhere where the application title contains SA. Okay, so I've included Sample Manager, so I'm going to save that. So that's all you have to do in here. If I reload the records, you can see it's now got my new one. Just check that to make sure it's there, and it is. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the home page. And into the Sample Manager. It's going a bit slow, but it's thinking about it. Okay, here's the Sample Manager. So the first thing we're going to do is load some sample records, some existing records. So if I go into Load Records, I'm just going to cherry pick half a dozen or so records like that. And now if we go to the print menu, or print button should I say, it shows me a list of the reports that are available to print. Here's the one that we've just added. And remember I said take note about the title and the file name. If I scroll along, you can also see the description. Oops, sorry about this, because I put a long description in there. You might not be able to see all of it, so you can hover the mouse and it'll show you it. That's handy. But you don't have to put a title in, you don't have to put a description in, but the more information you put in there, the easier it is to make an informed choice at this point. So I'm going to select Certificate of Analysis. And then the Print Report dialog gives us options about what we want to actually print. So The top one says no records, which is a bit strange, so I'm going to show you that separately. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. The default, when you've loaded some records, is currently loaded record. So if you can just see in the background 2011000130, if we select that one, that's going to be the currently loaded record. If we highlight selected records, we can, just like we did when we were loading the records, we can cherry pick which ones we want. So if I hold down the control key, I can say I'll have those two, or I can have all or none, you know, standard Qualoupe selection. So what I'll do is I'll have these ones at the status N. So if I click on preview, we get a new tab opening up at the top. It's titled with the name of the report we're running, and here we have the report viewer, and it's brought back the certificate of analysis. I selected 3 samples, and we get a pane down the left hand side here called the group tree, which shows you the samples. If I click on the sample ID, it takes me to the next record, and you can also go through them one page at a time. From this window you can print, there's a printer button, or you can export the report. So if I click on export, you've got different options. You could save it in various different formats if you wanted to. I won't do that at the moment. You can change the zoom if you want to look into something. You can turn the group tree off if you don't want to look at it. And not this particular report, but some of the standard reports have got interactive elements. So if you see something that looks like a link or a bit of text that says click here for more detail, and you click on it, that in itself will open in an extra tab here. So I'm going to close that, and we'll go back into print. We'll choose COA again. So if I just accepted currently loaded record and preview, it should do the same thing again. Takes a little while to run this because it's off to interrogate the database. Oops. Oh, that's interesting. It didn't show me any data. Serves me right. It might be there wasn't any data on that sample to show. Never mind. That's probably to do with the report design. The third option in here was no records. So if I go back into print, I'm going to choose this report, which is dashboard. Don't know if you saw me click on that. But if I click on the dashboard report and select no records and preview, if you're selecting no records, you're not telling the report, I don't want to see any records. What you're actually saying is, don't pass any records to the database. So it's sort of no records passed as opposed to don't view any records. So this report here is an overview report which just shows the current status of various samples and other sort of statistical data all in one page. So this isn't the sort of thing where you just want to send it one sample because it contains counts. So no records, it'll just run the report as is. If you choose current record, it'll load the record you actually had open at the time you clicked on print, and if you click on selected records, you can cherry pick the ones you want. So I'll have all of them and see what happens. Here we go again. Yes, see, we've only got the 3 we had before, so I think that the ones which are status N, I didn't closely look at the records, but they've probably got some missing data, which is why the report is not, when I showed it with current record, wasn't showing any data. Oh yes, there's one more report in here. There's a report here called sample information, and I've included this one because this report has got what Crystal calls parameters, not to be confused with method parameters, parameters on your tests, but the parameters in Crystal prompt for additional information at the time of running the report. So if I say no records and preview, before it shows me the information, Crystal is going to prompt, and this report happens to have a start and end date prompt. So we haven't selected the start and end date in Qualoupe, the report itself is demanding that you supply them. So you can either select them from the calendar, or you can type them in, whichever one you think is faster. That one's I've just typed in. This one I'll just select today's date. Okay. So on this report, it shows you from 1st of January 2011 to 22nd of September 2011. That's the dates I put in. Obviously, you can put different ones in. And we've got the group tree for navigating here. Unfortunately, it's showing IDs, which isn't very helpful because you can't tell what they are. But if I click on them, it takes me to different pages. You can see the sample number is changing there. Okay, so I think that covers it. So we've looked at setting up your reports in the first place to make them available for use. I go back to my tab, which is done via Reports Manager. In the Reports Manager, the reports are assigned to a particular application. We happen to assign them to the Sample Manager, so then in the Sample Manager, the Print button will show you the reports that have been set up and give you slightly different options on running them. There's full information about this in the manuals. So if nobody's got any questions, all that remains to be said is thank you very much for joining me for this class. This will be put up on YouTube to look at in due course, so you can go through and review it again. And as always, please contact us if you have any questions. Thanks very much. Goodbye.